Hello, everybody. My name's James. Welcome to the Clayton and James Show. And this morning, I'm left wondering just how much money would it cost to get Luis Enrique out of Paris Saint-Germain? How are you, Clayton?
I am good, and don't do it to yourself. Know your place.
Yeah, don't think that's possible, so I probably shouldn't get my hopes up about that sort of thing. We will certainly be talking last night's brilliant victory for Paris Saint-Germain at Anfield and the other Champions League games. We'll kick off with the Monday night football. I've got a surprise topic for Clayton, which he doesn't know what it's about, but I can tell you there will be a football first this coming Friday. Euro Focus. Takes us to Alphabet FC just because I like self-punishment. And on this day is a Champions League game from 6 years ago. Clates. Did you watch the Monday Night Football?
Ha, no, I looked at the
Well, you
schedule for
lucky
this week.
boy.
I know. I looked at the schedule for this week, and I have to be a bit selective with my evenings at the minute with how much I'm balancing and stuff. And I saw West Ham versus Newcastle. I then saw what the games were on Tuesday night in the Champions League. I'm obviously going to be watching tonight. I was like, I can't afford to watch that. And it sounds like I did not miss a single thing from browsing the socials ever so slightly. Newcastle 1,
Uh,
West Ham nil.
yeah, it wasn't a thriller at all. Go a little bit controversial because I do think Alexander Isak pushes Max Kilman, and it was looked at, obviously Bruno Guimaraes comes in on the back post and arrives. His timing's really good. I think they deemed that Kilman wouldn't reach the header anyway. It's two-handed push in his back. Kilman kind of milks it, doesn't he? Ends up like putting his arms in like some weird rotation position. But he's got to get the referee's attention. That's fine. But I think they deemed he wasn't going to win the header, and that's why they didn't give it. It's a foul. When I saw it live first time, I thought, it's a foul in now. Didn't look
Yeah,
right.
I find those incidents tricky because, again, like everything, they're so subjective, right? So some incidents, you look at it and your brain will go to, oh, the defender needs to be stronger there. But then there's others where you look at it and, like you just say, it is a foul, and the two hands pushing the back, it's enough to knock anyone's balance, especially when you're in the air. So I always find those particular incidents quite tricky. But I hadn't heard that the reason they gave the goal was because they didn't think Kilman would get to it. That's an
That's my
interesting.
assumption because I
Oh,
think
right, okay.
what they're doing when they're judging things like that now, they're looking for, okay, right, that was a foul, sure, but was there a consequence that would have stopped the goal? I.e., okay, ball's getting played. Let's just say they were on another corner of the box and Isak's pulling Kilman's shirt. It's not impacting that goal in any way. So I think that's what they're deeming it. They're like, right, would Kilman have won the header without the push? I think it's just flighting over is too hype for him. So that's what they've deemed. So if it had been a little bit lower, they go, right, Kilman would have had a clear run at the header. I think they cancel the goal. I think that's what they've decided. I'm not even saying necessarily that's right, but I think that's the conclusion that they've come to. West Ham picked same team again. That'll probably be it now. I can understand why Graham Potter's done that because they've had some success over the last couple of games. Obviously, clean sheets against Leicester and Arsenal in two victories in a row. I don't think we'll necessarily stick for the next one at Everton at the weekend. Obviously, Lucas Paquetá returned as a substitute. I imagine he'll go back in the team at Goodison at the weekend. The problem I think they've got a little bit it's not so much a problem because I very much recommended after they beat yourselves that they stayed with the same system against Leicester because you're playing kind of polar opposites of quality of the league in and almost your expectations completely different what you want the result to be. I realize they've won both, but how much of the ball you're going to have is completely different. It's like that worked against a side where you're not going to have a lot of the ball. Let's see how it looks like against a side where you're going to have a lot of the ball. And it worked fine against Leicester as well, although they didn't create much, despite how easy that particular game was. And I think it was an issue for them the other night as well. XG is 0.72 across the game. Only the one big chance. It didn't overly hurt a Newcastle side that looked very vulnerable, I think, in the opening sort of 10 to 15 minutes or so. And the fullbacks end up too deep. Skulls, I'm not sure if that's his position. He's a young lad. I'm not discrediting him anyway. He's a young lad. I'm not sure if that's going to be his position, left wing back. I suspect possibly not. And Wan-Bissaka, although for example doing really well on the goal at the Emirates, he's a way more of a fullback than a winger ultimately.
Yeah.
And you've got three midfield players in Ward-Prowse now back at the squads, playing in kind of the base. Soucek and Alvarez. Soucek's a good player to arrive in the box. Alvarez is like a good ball winner on a good
He had a
day.
chance from what I saw, to be fair. So yeah,
Yeah, but none of them have got the quality at the top end. And what you've basically got is two wide players playing as two centre forwards in Kudos and Bowen. And I don't think the understanding and the chemistry was great with them when they haven't got anything that's kind of really feeding it and creating it for them. So I think it's not a discredit of West Ham. I just think it will change again now. So I wouldn't be surprised if they went to Everton and played a back four even at the weekend. I think that's a possibility. For Newcastle, really important result heading into Sunday. And particularly some of the issues they've had. We know Lewis Hall's obviously out for the season. Anthony Gordon's suspended. I joked on Monday's podcast about, well, at least Trent and Mo Salah aren't playing on that side against you on Sunday. We'll get onto it, but I suspect Trent won't be playing in the cup final now, unfortunately.
yeah.
I don't know if they're going to pick the team that played last night. I think you look at it on the face of it and go, right, Pope in goal, clean sheet will stay in goal. Back four, Trippier, Share, Burn, Livramento. I think they all did okay, despite like what I said, like a really shaky start. Midfield three, Gimres, Tonali, and very importantly, Joe Linton back. And then front three, Murphy, Isak, Barnes.
You said you don't think they'll play the same team. What would the change be?
I don't think Barnes will start.
Who would play
I
there
think he'll
instead?
play Joe Willock.
Oh, and then
And
Joe
they'll
Linton
go with
going up
that
there.
strong left hand side and an overemphasis. I think the plan might have been to do that two part deal with Trent originally. But I also now think it's going to, what are Liverpool going to do there? They're going to maybe put what Kwanzaa there. I think they'll try and press it. I
Yeah,
think Newcastle's smart play in this because they've obviously lost a couple of key players, including Gordon, and don't have as much variety defensively at the moment. I mean, that back four's pretty much got to be what it is, I think. I think they'll be well placed to sit in off the ball quite a lot. In Newcastle at their best, a high tempo, go and press. Wembley's a big pitch. It'll be psychologically sapping because of the occasion and what it will mean to that football club. These players will become legends if they win on Sunday. It's that big for
that's
Newcastle.
that's interesting. If the game plan is for them to kind of sit back, soak it up, do you not think having a Barnes out there on the left almost suits that style of play better? Or do you
But
think it's
it
more bring him on as a sub for later
correct.
sort of thing?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think it's that. I think they'll if you're looking if it's not going right for them, and you're looking what can we do to change this offensively, you're suddenly looking a bit light. Whereas he normally would be the one anyway, move Gordon inside or to the other side or whatever you do with it. He'd ordinarily be the one. Like you wouldn't consider, I don't think, moving Isak out wide and playing Wilson up front.
nah.
It's not the gig. They could play Will Asula wide possibly. But I think, yeah, it might be that. There's every chance it will be a long day. I think you want Barnes's pace to expose that now problem that Liverpool have at right back later in the game. The obvious thing is to think, well, you've got to play him now, but it might be that it's more useful for you later in the game. And I think Willock and Joe Linton had that brilliant relationship on the left hand side. We saw it in the 1-0 league game against you earlier this season, but more impressively, obviously, the year they qualified for the Champions League previously. And
Yeah, and
obviously,
you look at
I was just
sorry,
going to
go.
say the very important thing for them, obviously, Monday night is it keeps them in contention for that. They're obviously back level on points with City now, so they're in contention.
Yeah, that's going to be a good run in. Obviously, City's fixtures are quite nice, so you'd back them to do it. But yeah, Newcastle have put themselves well in that conversation. Only thing I was just going to say on the what you were saying about the Willock Joe Linton partnership, you look at Liverpool's potential vulnerabilities and looking at last night. I know what I was saying there about Barnes potentially suiting it, but you look at the profile of a Willock and Joe Linton combining and trying to get into those areas in between Liverpool's midfield and defensive line, and that feels like it could suit him as well. So, yeah, it'll be a good game to watch on Sunday for sure. I do wonder how much last night, well, the last two legs would have taken out of Liverpool, to be fair, because that was a hell of a contest.
Yeah, we'll get there in a sec. Any West Ham players under consideration for your FPL the weekend?
Uh, Bowen's the obvious one. I mean, I've got him already, but no, I'm not going to add any more to that. I think. It's more Newcastle, to be honest. I know last week on Patreon we were talking about what do people do as Hall owners, and we weren't sure what would happen in the fullbacks. It obviously ended up being Trippier right back, Livramento left back. Do you think is that something you could look at for people looking to invest in Newcastle, or wait
You're obviously
more
not
weeks
investing
after?
this week, that's clear. So
No,
I think you
yeah,
take the information obviously heading towards game week 30, and you can use obviously the information from the cup final to help you. I think there will definitely be a temptation for Pope, But I think the word again from our Newcastle patrons, be very careful of that. Like it could easily be that Dubravka comes back in at some point. That's avoidable. I think the centre backs feel safe, Share and Burn, but Share I think is too expensive for what he is really, and Burn is no frills. So you are drawn to look at the fullbacks. Kieran Trippier is not the player that was in everybody's team like this time 2 years ago. Reality. And Livramento doesn't offer a lot offensively, but he's obviously a nice price. You can't really argue the price if you're looking at all need for Brentford at home, Leicester away, double game week, and especially if you are free hitting in game week 33 and then it's Ipswich at home 34, like that covers you off really nicely. So I think for those who are wildcarding around about 30, 31, they will be drawn to look at a Newcastle defender. I think most will default more towards Livramento than paying the extra for Trippier, would be my take. Livramento will be safe for you going forward. And ultimately, you can play it when you want and bench it when you want. Whereas with Trippier, you'll feel obliged. And that said, we might all have spare money because of what's happening with Trent. But to be honest, I just think that's going to push the advances towards Vardiol for the weekend
Yeah.
more than waiting for that. Further forward, midfielders I probably would avoid. I think Gordon, for those who's a wild card in 31, will be a great get because
Is that when he's back? Yeah,
he'll be back
31.
from his suspension in 31, and therefore his ownership elsewhere is nothing. So you wild card into it. Leicester away, double game week. If you then want to chain it on, you can chain it on. Isak will obviously be in the majority of teams as long as he's fit at that stage. Otherwise, not huge interest in them. I guess if you were free hitting 32, I think the most popular free would be Gordon, Isak, and I suppose on a free hit, which you wouldn't do in 32, but if he was, I suppose you would go Trippier. But I don't think he's worth the extra over Livramento. Also,
Yep.
factor in you might want Eddie Howe, subject to how people are playing their chips. West Ham appeal quite quietly. It's hidden at the moment, and obviously it depends a lot on Brighton's result with Nottingham Forest in the FA Cup. But what I really like about West Ham in terms of the specifics heading towards game week 33 is they'll still look fine in that game week, even if they don't end up with a double, because their first fixture is Southampton at home.
Yeah,
I've,
true. Seen a few
I've,
asking about their defenders, to be fair.
I think Bowen will kind of be default template player in the circumstance if West Ham did double in 33. I think you'll find his 20% EO now will be well beyond 50% under that circumstance. And under a very unique circumstance where City and Villa both went out of the FA Cup and West Ham doubled in 33, you may even find he's the go-to captaincy choice if they had a double in 33. Southampton at home and then Brighton away, a Brighton team that may well rotate ahead of their own semi-final. Remember, it's not an impact to West Ham. They won't rotate. Certainly not players like Bowen anyway. Kudos doesn't feel like worth having. I think he's got 3 league goals this season. Paquetá will obviously take over the pens, but it doesn't really. It might interest you on a free hit if you're free hit in 33. Otherwise, no interest. Areola looks to me secure as the number one now. I'd argue more
He
secure
did
than the
very well, didn't he?
yeah, more secure than the Pope, the Bravka situation. Actually, it's just more suited to Graham Potter football than Fabianski ultimately. So I think you can look at it. That comes with the warning that both of them goalkeepers are known to pick up the odd injury. It just does seem to happen with both of them. And I'm part leaving Flappy there thinking this would be handy if Areola can get like his 2 3 week knock around about game week 33. The centre backs are all pretty boring. Kilman is the safest one to get. I wouldn't be diving into Oliver Scholes. I see a lot of people asking about Aaron Cresswell because he's 3.9. But as I said earlier, I think now that they've had I wouldn't say bad results, harsh, but obviously it's disappointing. They may just go back to a back four. And if they do, Cresswell won't play. If to stay with a back three, I think he'll play. But if change to a back four, I don't think he will. I think it'll be Kilman and Todibo. Or in that case, even more Mavropanos would then be ahead of Cresswell. So you'd be back to sort of like fourth choice. And I think based on what they did previously, Emerson would come back in at left back. Emerson is not a choice at the moment. Wan-Bissaka's 4.5. It's reasonable, but it's a bit dull.
It's very dull. I feel like it's just having it for the sake of having it if you want to go West Ham defence,
Yeah, but
personally.
I think if you can get use out of it, i.e., whatever you've got this week, you'll probably use. Free hitters I would guess probably would go different players. But if you're investing and you're buying, Everton away this week is fine. You look ahead to 33 and it's like, okay, like I said, the beauty with them is if you plan, right, I'll have West Ham players because they might double and you need to make that choice now. Right, well, if they don't double, you've still got single game week fixture against Southampton. Like, it's fine.
Yeah.
And if you end up bench boosting with Wan-Bissaka single game week fixture at home to Southampton, it's all right, man. It's not the worst thing that happened to you. He's safe for minutes. That I would add, clear as day. But it's a bit no frills.
Yeah.
Probably Areola's the best defensive one to get hold of because of the value is cheap. There is a case now, I think, to double them up, subject to what you do.
Areola and
If
Flappy.
you're obviously if you need to bench boost still, you obviously you're not going to do that. But if your bench boost is out the way, I don't think it's the worst thing to have Areola Fabianski. The only thing I keep thinking as well though, in terms of being like I've got Bowen and Flappy, is if I add Wan Bissaka, I potentially block myself if I do want Evan Ferguson suddenly. So I was saying Evan Ferguson, if West Ham did double, wouldn't play twice in a double because he's obviously on loan from Brighton. But I keep thinking it might even block me Potter.
Are we over indexing on West Ham here? I feel like are we
Yeah,
really?
yeah, no, but
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like for me, I kind of most people who still got the Arsenal man left and have used the bench boost, if they're in my situation, looking at using it 31 to 33, how doesn't appeal in the same way now because we know it's not double double. If Glasner's not double double, it doesn't appeal in the same way. And because Palace have started doing really well lately, the prospect of the 5 bonus matches starting to look very unlikely. Like they're kind of whittling away by the game week. Oh, it's one less for Glasner, one less for Glasner. So I might even be looking at a path that's something like Emery 31 at home to Forest, Glasner maybe 32, and it could be part of 33. Because if I
Yeah.
looked at it
Okay.
and
Fair
went
enough.
Southampton at home and then the Brighton away as possible bonus, I might even deem that's the one I want to go to.
Yeah, that
But I
makes
want to
sense to
leave
be
that
fair.
open. So Wan-Bissaka's a no for me because it will take me to the free West Ham.
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
What did you watch last night, mate?
It had to be one game, wasn't it? Liverpool PSG. I mean, I was in awe of the first leg, and yeah, even last night it was absolutely amazing. I was say Champions League knockouts are just my favorite because of like the tempo and intensity just goes up a notch, and then especially when you've got two teams like Liverpool and PSG who are two of the best in the tournament. It's just, I love watching football of that caliber. It brings so much joy to me. Just kind of sat there watching it, and I thought it was amazing. I thought it was an absolutely brilliant tie
It
across the
felt
two
like a
legs.
semi-final to me. It felt
Yeah,
massive.
absolutely, absolutely. I get so much enjoyment from watching football games like that. Just yeah, and I think this is why I was quite a big advocate for the new format. Personally, I always felt like the Champions League, not always, the last few years for me personally felt like it was a bit pointless until the quarterfinals, or at least now we had some big ties in that kind of playoff round. I know Liverpool fans will feel hard done by because they obviously topped the league phase and this was their air quotes reward. But as a neutral, watching that, I mean, that was the new format, kind of giving the neutrals a football game. That was brilliant. Yeah, absolutely loved it.
Yeah, it was brilliant. The first leg was brilliant. Last night was brilliant. You even though you only had 2 goals across the tie, if you exclude the penalties, you could sit for it again. I think. Yeah,
Easy, easily.
top level stuff, and it had the right winner. It
Yeah,
really did. Um, Liverpool were obviously better last night than they were in the first leg, but one of the statistics I love from last night is PSG's possession first half 46%, second half 53%, first half of extra time 60%, second half of extra time 73%.
wow. I didn't feel
They
like that watching it
just
personally,
got
but fair enough.
stronger and stronger the longer it went on. I kind of jested about Luis Enrique at the start, but he will at some point end up in this country. I could see him being an Arsenal or Chelsea manager down the line, 4 or 5 years from now, something like that. I could see him taking over from Arteta whenever the moment comes. I could see him now. Chelsea have kind of gone down this Maresca route. I could see Enrique being at Chelsea at some point. I could see those sort of appointments. I can't see him at Tottenham, unfortunately. I think he's a
What's to
top
say he
manager.
would want to leave there? Because like
Oh no, no, no,
that
no, I'm
group
not. I'm
they
talking in the future.
yeah, no, because that group they've got, it's so well balanced. I think historically we always spoke about PSG as like the not one man teams, but there was always like a Galactico
They
focus
were
around
mini
them, wasn't it?
Galacticos, yeah, basically.
Yeah. Whereas now that they feel like the midfield is so nicely balanced. That the front three, like the four with Desiree Douy that came on as well. Like as an Arsenal fan, screaming about what I want. Like there were four profiles on the pitch there for me that I was like, yes, please, yes, please, yes, please, yes, please. It was absolutely amazing. But yeah, bring it back to Enrique. I just think like what he's done there is amazing. Just especially taking away the kind of narrative around that PSG football club and making them more of this football team. It feels like they're just such a joy to watch. Yeah, really, really impressive.
What I like about them is I think you can see that kind of that cultural Spanish thing that we shouldn't be surprised about, right? Played for Real and Barcelona, managed Barcelona as well. So when they're on that, you can see all those little intricacies. But off the ball, it remind me more of a German team. They've got a real intensity about them. Like most of them teams, you think, oh, bloody hell, I can't get the ball off them, but they'll be vulnerable the other way. They don't really look it. And some of them
Yeah.
at the back are great, both individually and collectively. I mean, is there a better fullback pairing than Mendes and Hakimi in world football at the moment? You'd be hard pressed, wouldn't you?
Yeah, definitely hard pressed. And even Marquinhos,
Yeah,
like
he's great. He's
again,
great.
over the two, he's just, I mean, he's been around for years, hasn't he? But his experience just shows every action just feels like he makes the right decision. He's calm, he's measured, he's technical. Yeah, and the fullback pairings, like you said, brilliant. I must say, I do think Liverpool did well last night. I know PSG were deserved winners over the two legs, but I do think Liverpool were much improved from the first leg. And like that, I mean, minutes into the game, what was it, 3 to 6 minutes, where McAllister goes in and squares it for Salah? Like if McAllister shoots or Salah puts that away, we're talking about a different tie. But over the course of the 90, 120, yeah, like PSG just grew into it. It was just, it felt blow for blow, like heavyweight boxing. It was just non-stop relentless. Like what you said there about the pressing as well from both teams. There was one period where like there was almost a 5 minute spell where they both like took a breather, slowed it down a little bit, and then it was boom, go again. And it was amazing. I absolutely loved it.
I thought it was phenomenal. I mean, I thought their first leg performance was the best I'd seen from any team all
You said
season.
that, yeah. Yeah.
Um, I mentioned that on stream Friday, and I said it to you Friday on our Patreon pod as well. Absolutely brilliant. Nearly faultless, and they lost. And I'd warned a few people. We spoke about it on our UCL Fantasy Patreon pod yesterday. It's like, it's not. I expect Liverpool to go through now, but this ain't done. These are a good team, and I think looking at those two performances against Liverpool, Hugh would have to say that is an absolute live runner to win the whole competition without a doubt.
Yeah,
Love
definitely.
Vitinha in the middle of the pitch.
Ah, so good.
He reminds me a little bit of Modric, which is yeah, it's the top level of kind of comparison you can have. Which I know every time his name gets mentioned, Bradley Parker still can't quite believe that Wolves let him go. Is what it is.
What was
I've
the
kind of
story
had,
there? Like they just let him go? Like...
I don't think they were that high on him. Okay, whatever. But to be honest, there wasn't anything at the time that I can't remember watching him for Wolves, to be totally
Neither can
honest.
I.
So, there you go. Modric is someone, let's be honest, who the first time he played in midfield for Tottenham centrally, people went, he can't do that. And then becomes one of the best of a generation in that position. First, we'll look at João Neves, who's only 20, really good little football player as well. Fabian Ruiz, we saw quite a bit of for obviously Spain in the Euros last year, good player. I thought Barcola was quite quiet last night. When
Yeah.
Dewey come on, like yeah, he was heavily linked
His,
with my team last summer and the summer before. Yeah, well, he'll be playing for PSG probably from the off, maybe even before the end of this
his
season. Actually,
his feet are like lightning. His
it was
ability to
dancing
just,
feet, weren't it?
yeah,
The effort he
unbelievable. And there
had,
was that one shot. I think you're going to say the
the
same
effort he
thing.
had at the cop end. I don't was that in the first half extra time. So he got the shot away so quick. It was like past Allison
And
before
the
I'd seen
and the
it.
pace and power on the shot once he got it off as well. I couldn't believe it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a special talent to keep an eye on. And Dembele is now up to the levels that got him such a huge move to Barcelona all those years ago. He looks at home in that position. I think there was always kind of a tag on him that he was quite languid, maybe looked a bit lazy a lot of the time. I don't see that at all. I think his movement's getting better. He kind of
Nice
fluffed the
penalty.
best chance he had when he took the additional touch and Allison came out and met him. And Kvaratskhelia is a special player. One of my favourite moments of the game was in the first half of the game last night, and he took a whack off McAllister, and he's kind of this player you associate as kind of this silky ball carrier. It's difficult to get the ball off. He whacked back at McAllister, but it was clean as well.
I can't actually remember that.
Yeah, it was quite early in the first half. It was a clean tackle, but he let him know at the same time as well. Good lad, like I'm not expecting that from the winger. He's a gorgeous player to watch, Kvaratskhelia. Yeah, they're a live runner, very much a contender. This is the strongest I've ever felt about them as a possibility to go and win the competition. And that's despite the fact I think you could look at 11s they've had in the past and gone, wow, this should be. But this is a collective with a brilliant manager, in my opinion, that's got a real chance. Good luck to Villa. That's all I can say, basically. It's not a foregone conclusion, but it was no doubt be a tough game for Villa. Villa knew they were going to have a tough
Yeah.
time in the quarterfinals either way. And yes, I know they haven't won yet, but they will go through tonight.
Quick question, and I feel like this always gets done after the incident. But when Darwin was stepping up, did you just think he was missing, or because I did? I was like, it's his cameo was a bit of a
When I was
stinker.
watching the penalties, I as an Englishman, to be honest, was thinking PSG will win because I just remembered Donnarumma from the shootout, right, in the Euro final, and he's a giant lad. I think actually he played really well last night. By the way,
He
I
was
know.
better than the first leg. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
commanded his box quite
he should
nicely,
have
other
done
than
better
one
with
flappy.
the Elliott goal. I don't think he's hit the heights of what people expected him to be, and all I mean by that is, I think when he was at Milan at sort of like playing for them when he was young, like 18 or so, people thought that he would definitively and definitely be the best goalkeeper in the world. And I don't think he's become that. That's all I
People were
mean
saying
by
he'd
that.
be better than Buffon at the time, weren't they? Like when he first came into Milan, that's the heights that people were
We're
talking about.
we're not there yet.
No,
But look, he's still 26, which he might have another good 10 years of his career to go, right? I mean, would have Buffon played till 40 or so? Yeah, good side. Good side. To be honest, my biggest takeaway would be is I really look forward to watching them again.
yeah, it's fun. Like we played them. I can't remember what match day it was, but it was quite early on in the tournament,
It
and
was
they did
shy.
have a couple of players. Yeah, they had a couple of players missing, but like it's almost like they've grown into the tournament as the longer it's gone on. Yeah, they look very different over the two legs compared to what I watched.
Well, I mean, even if to go back into January, and obviously the game against Man City went 2-0 down to Man City, and they're out. They're going out. And then, my God, did they put the foot down in that football match? As soon as they scored, you could feel it instantly, even at 2-1 down. You're like, oh, these will probably turn them around. In terms of reflecting on the team that played it yourselves early in the season, Dembele didn't play. Fabian Ruiz didn't play. But otherwise, same team.
Yeah,
I
and I
just think
remember.
they've grown. And we see this a lot, even in title races, even in, just removes the Champions League title races, but you can see it in European competitions. Ultimately, if you're in a position where you're challenging, your peak needs to hit April. If you
Yep.
hit after that international break, so PSG might have even peaked too early here, is a possibility, right? But there, you cannot, I think, compare them to the team that lost at the Emirates earlier in the season because they didn't play like they played last night. That was 9 of the 11 started at Arsenal when they lost 2-0 fairly routinely. Admittedly, maybe their best player missing in Dembele, but they've hit like a cohesion now as a unit. The chemistry is there. Yeah, they're a live threat to absolutely anybody in this competition. I didn't care
Yeah,
who won last night, but I'm watching the game and I'm thinking, well, if Arsenal did get to a semi-final, who are Arsenal more likely to beat out the two? And I couldn't
and
really
what
make my
conclusion
mind
did you
up.
come to?
Well, I kind of come to a conclusion. Second leg would be at Anfield. I can imagine your lot, yeah, losing 1-0 kind of gig. Whereas PSG might not have the mindset at that key killer point, like the semi-final, to get over the line. They haven't got players
Mm.
in there of experience doing it, right? Not in the
Yeah, you don't
Champions
have
League
experience
anyway.
doing it until you do it. So yeah, I never quite
Understand
subscribe
that.
to that narrative personally, but yeah.
Yeah, very good side. Did you watch Barca?
I did actually, yeah. Lamine Yamal. Oh my god. Oh yeah, because I texted you, didn't I? In the Champions League fantasy, I didn't put Yamal in my team, and I watched an absolute clinic from him. I mean, he's another special talent and a joy to watch, isn't he? Is he
Him,
17?
yeah. I don't know. He's one of them. We've been 10 years. We go, he's only 26. Like, it'd be one of them. Um,
He's 17 years old. Fucking
Yeah,
hell.
yeah, it's not fair. It's not fair on every other like brilliant 17-year-old. It's like some Wanyeri who's a super talent. Oh, if I compare him to you, Mal, don't do that. Like, it's not fair, right? This guy really has the potential to be the best player in the world. I don't think it's in question. And Rafinha is absolutely flying, man. He must be one of the best on earth at the moment as well. His output has improved dramatically this season.
I think he's
You,
got over 40 goal contributions already,
is that
goals and
right?
assists. I'm sure I heard that on
Incredible.
the comms. Yeah.
Yeah, who didn't was bloody Lewandowski. Did you captain him as well? Did you? Yeah.
Yeah, we both did, didn't we?
Missed two big chances, didn't he? He didn't look like he was going to take over either. If you haven't seen Yamal's goal, it's worth finding because I can describe it to you, but it doesn't do it justice. We've all seen that. You got a player who's gorgeous with his left foot, like he is, comes off the right foot. He's almost heading away from goal, bends it in the far corner. I've seen that before, James. I don't know if you've seen many like this though, because he doesn't hit it with any power or anything. It's
That's
almost
the
like
difference.
a cross, but there is no doubt that he means it.
It's like he tapped it. Honestly, like you say, the way you describe those goals, you see people come in, they really wrap their foot around the
Yeah.
ball. It's got a bit of power and intent behind it. This guy tapped it, and like I can't describe the technique to be able to generate that amount of power without putting power into it. Like it's unbelievable. I do think he crossed it for the first goal, by the way. Rafinha's on.
Yes. You think
Sorry,
he
no,
crossed it? He
no,
didn't
sorry. I
cross it.
meant to say I think he was trying to shoot for the first
Yes,
goal,
he
and it
was.
ended
Yeah,
up as a
he got
cross.
away with it. Question for you. Could be the final. PSG Barcelona. Would you back?
PSG,
Agreed.
mate.
By
This
a long way.
Barcelona team, I know Benfica weren't good enough to take advantage of it, but there's periods in the game where there is so much space, and I think a really good opposition who's clinical and efficient on the day could absolutely massacre Barca in periods. I really believe that.
Yeah, they're very brave with their high line, but they are much easier to create chances against than most of the other top, and Barcelona are one of them, top teams in this Champions League. Good win for Bayern in Leverkusen last night as well. I did buy an UCL fantasy yesterday, Clates.
Did you get Kane?
No, I didn't. Wish I'd had. But I decided to punt on Alfonso Davis, mate, about
Ha!
half hour before
Nice.
deadline, thinking, well, he's definitely going through, isn't he? I'll have a bit of that. Let's see what happens tonight. Scored as well. Lovely, jubbly.
Fair play.
Um, and what was the other game last night? Oh, Inter beat
Inter
Feyenoord,
finals.
which was no surprise. Inter will play Bayern in the quarterfinals. Obviously, PSG will meet the winner of the Villa Bruges game. And Barcelona will play the winner of the Lille Dortmund game. Obviously, Arsenal, presuming they can hold on to their six goal advantage, because that would be a really awkward conversation tomorrow. Would obviously play one of the Madrid clubs. Yeah, heating up that Champions League. You'll obviously watch Arsenal tonight. I might skip tonight, to be honest. I'll probably watch the Madrid game, I think.
I'm
Right.
tempted to have that on the laptop or something. To be honest, the
What
Madrid
could are
one.
you not going to the Emirates tonight, you fair weather?
No, I said this, didn't I? Oh, maybe I didn't.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did.
Arsenal. Oh, okay. Yeah, basically Arsenal
It's
price.
bloody expensive tonight, I know.
Yeah, it's £92 face value for my ticket. I was like, I need that money for something else. So yeah, I've swerved this one tonight.
You could probably, Clayton, afford with your 92 quid to go and watch England twice. Next
Okay, is this the
Friday,
surprise topic?
next Friday, and the Monday afterwards, because this Friday, Thomas Tuchel will announce his first England squad, and we very much look forward to it. And I have just WhatsApped you, Clayton, because we do actually share each other's phone numbers. An England squad that I've picked. There are 27 players in it, and we'll obviously put it on screen on YouTube. But just for the benefit of the audio listeners, I'll run through it. I picked 27. Tuchel might pick more. I don't think he'll pick less than that. I guess there's a possibility he picks about 35 names, even possibly. We've heard speculation that he's got this 55 player shortlist that he's working within at the moment. I'll tell you what I've picked anyway, and there are clear problems in this squad at the moment, particularly say in the fullback area. So pick three goalkeepers. He may well pick four. Dean Henderson, Jordan Pickford, and James Trafford. I've picked four fullbacks. And arguably, these could all play up both either side, possibly. Rico Lewis of Manchester City, Tino Livramento of Newcastle, Miles Lewis-Skelly of Arsenal, and Jed Spence of Tottenham. Centre backs, Jared Brantwaite, Levi Colwell, Mark Gay, and Ezri Konsa. Five midfielders, I guess the central midfielders. I'd like to see a first call up for Elliot Anderson of Nottingham Forest. Conor Gallagher in, Curtis Jones, Declan Rice. And if I had to have gone with a 26-man squad, I probably would have left Adam Wharton out purely because of how little football he's played. But he is fit at the moment. And I think we should be beginning to fast track this and get him involved properly with this team now. Attacking mids, strong area for England, as we know. Jude Bellingham, Jared Bowen, Ebe Eze, Phil Foden, Morgan Gibbs-White. Anthony Gordon is not suspended for England. Cole Palmer and Morgan Rogers. And I've picked three nines, I guess you would call them. Liam Delap, Harry Kane, and Ollie Watkins. Delap, I think, should be in the squad. So, I mean, I've put him in there ahead of Solanke, again, for similar issues around injuries for Solanke recently. So before anyone throws my Tottenham bias at me for the Jed Spence shout, yeah, there's no James Maddison in this squad, but he's still not my favourite person until he makes it up to me. What stands out here, Clay? I guess that the fullback one, I struggled with that with the fullbacks.
Yeah, the way you sent it to me, that's immediately what stood out. Not just fullbacks, but just defense in general. We feel quite light on quality and numbers compared to like the attacking midfielder section you've got is stacked and almost don't need that many. But yeah, as you were reading out the fullbacks, I was trying to think who else. Lewis Hall would have been the natural one, right?
Oh yeah, he'd be in, no doubt. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Trent, I'm assuming, is injured, so taking him out.
Me too.
Reece James, I think. The problem with Reece James is he ain't going to play for you Friday and Monday. And I just think Reece James, there's no doubt Reece James, a fully fit Reece James would be in here, right? We'd all love to see him be a regular for England, etc. Reece James, I just think, doesn't need to be playing, with all due respect, Albania and Latvia. He just doesn't need it in his life. Like, if it comes around next summer and he's proven his fitness and we can take him, yeah, cool. Like, take him, great. I just don't think he needs it, man.
No. Chilwell's one that, like, I know he's not played enough, but
Palace, man.
No, but like if he starts getting into the Palace team, I wonder if that's an area where he could work his way into the squad. But yeah, fullbacks wise, I'd say it kind of picks itself at the minute, just based on availability, to be honest. But it feels very, very weak.
And do you know what also will feel weak about it? What if it is wingbacks?
Well, I look at I've not actually seen Miles Lewis-Skelly play wingback. He's kind of played that inverted role. I think Livramento can do it. I'm not sure about Lewis. He feels similar in profile to Lewis-Skelly in terms of that kind of inverted profile. Jed Spence, I think he could do that.
Yeah, I think so. I think Jed needs someone in front of him. That would be the only thing. But it can be someone who runs from in to out and makes a run for him. But I think you run the risk, a lot of these players who, if they're fullbacks and then suddenly you ask them to play wingbacks, there's nothing in front of them. You know the inevitable of what happens. You go backwards a lot. It's natural. Because you're used to having someone in front, even if that means that the person out in front of you comes inside and opens that space for you. Like, great, that's comfortable. You need someone to open the space at least.
Yeah, it's interesting because we've all just assumed Tuchel's going to come in with his back five, back three, right? But based on those fullbacks.
But I look at the makeup of the squad and I think at the moment it's probably got to be a back four.
Yeah, the way I've interpreted this squad you've sent me, I've come to the same conclusion. I don't see how you can play with wing backs with that squad.
Well, you can. I mean, you could play someone like Andy Gordon at wing back, couldn't you?
Oh, fuck that. Like, it's not. I think if you're going down that route, you just go with the back four and try get the right setup for the attackers, right? Surely.
Yeah, I think this squad is built for a back four at the moment. That might change. Obviously, in terms of centre backs, I think those four have all proven that they're good enough to play for England, and that's fine. I've left Harry Maguire out at the moment. Two reasons. One, he may also be injured. Obviously, didn't play for United at the weekend. Two, I wonder if that's another one where Tuchel would just rather look at others. You know what his competence is for England, and it might be that Tuchel might not like him. That is a possibility. John Stones obviously injured at the moment. I don't think there's anything in the league at the moment at centre back that I'm thinking that yeah throw in there. Like Taylor Howard-Bellis was and scored for England in Lee Carsley's last squad. Wouldn't see him being a part of this. I think that four's fine. And the one thing I do like about that fullback combination of the four is, like I said, I'm not sure about Lewis Skelly right back, but all the others can play right back and left back. So you
Yep.
can have a look at all of them together. Anything else stand out as missing that's obvious to you, or anyone
No,
you think, oh, I really wanted them in the squad?
not immediately, to be honest. I mean, it's not a surprise, but just wow, how has Jack Grealish fallen so out of favour? I mean, it's
I
understood
don't
and
know how you
it's
fit him in
correct.
that.
No, you can't. But it's more like I almost think that whole 100 million move doesn't get enough scrutiny in terms of how it's panned out for him personally. Foden as well. If you look at this season's performances, does it like he should be in the squad, of course, but is he in there on merit, as people always love to say when these discussions are around?
Arguably not.
Probably not. No. But no, to be honest, nothing immediately screams out to me there. I
I mean, when you look at the
can't.
attacking mids, I haven't seen enough of Jude this season, obviously. But in terms of the Premier League players in there, you'd say Morgan Gibbs White is definitely deserving of being in there. So too Morgan Rogers for their seasons. And I know Cole Palmer is not everybody's favourite in the FPL community at the moment, but across his whole season, he's had another great football season, right? Those three for their form, sure. The rest is debatable a little bit, actually. Actually, I mean Andy Gordon should certainly be in there as well, actually.
You think the rest is so like an Eze? You think's debatable?
A little bit, yeah. Because he's been carrying a problem, hasn't he, for injuries. I think he's looked better the last few. But he's had this injury sort of December, January. He's definitely been carrying a problem. He's the sort of one you could see maybe being a pull-out ahead of Palace having what lunchtime kickoff in an FA Cup quarter final on the Saturday afterwards. I'm not accusing. I'm just saying if
No,
he's
I'll be
if
surprised.
he's still carrying a problem. But I'm sure these
True.
players will want to go to Tuchel's first training camp. You would imagine, surely.
Yeah. Do you think, just thinking on the fullbacks, like one player we've spoken about a lot is Tyrick Mitchell, right? Is he someone that you think would be looking at this squad thinking, if I can't get in with those fullbacks, when am I ever going to?
Yeah, I don't dislike Tyreek Mitchell in any way at all, but I do think that's possibly scraping a barrel a little bit. And I'd rather, when we're looking at this as well, and we got no Trent, kind of ruling Reece James out for similar reasons. Trippier Walker's just retired. Luke Shaw is unavailable. Lewis Hall, he's going to be England's left back, unavailable. Are we better off looking at a few others who might push it, like Lewis Skelly and Spence? Lewis Skelly and Spence, despite being different ages, might push on to become the sort of players you go, yeah, actually, I want them in my World Cup squad in 15 months' time. I do not foresee a scenario where we're ever going to say, I want Tyreek Mitchell to be. I think a lot of us would have taken him last year because we'd be like, at least it's bloody natural. But I think now we've got Lewis Hall, we don't really have that problem.
Are you
And you've
quite
got
high on
Lewis
Spence then?
and you've got Lewis Skelly's development. Well, Jed Spence has been one of the few players actually been consistent for Tottenham over the last couple of months. And I think
The reason I asked,
his ability to be able to play right or left back is also very useful.
what's he like technically? Because I don't watch Tottenham that much, so I can't confess to have actually watched him.
Um, Safe. You ain't going to get him pinging 50-yard balls, but I don't think there's many fullbacks like Trent, for example, you're going to get that from these days. Good in much better defensively. It's improved hugely. So like put him up in 1v1 duels actually against the likes of Salah and Bumo being two examples I'll reference. He's defended them individually very well this year. So that's against two of the best right
Are there
wingers in the league.
similarities to Wan-Bissaka with him, do you think? Or not quite?
Little bit, little bit. I think Jed has got more about him going forward, but Wan-Bissaka would be better defensively to counter that. So
Yeah.
Jed still, excuse me, needs to work on a few things like his concentration, but it's improved a lot. So I think, yeah, with what we got a fullback, Wan-Bissaka call up would feel like a step backwards to me.
Oh yes. Yeah. I like the Liam Delap shout up top as well, though.
I think he's a
And like
shoe.
Kane Watkins picked themselves. Yeah, I agree. But I think that's a really nice one having him in there.
What's the alternatives? Solanke is the kind of the one you're leaving out here.
Yeah, and I think if Solanke was fit, had been fit for a few weeks prior to this squad, he probably would have got the nod, right?
I'd still want Delap in this. I think you've got to look at it. I think so. I think he's deserving of it, Liam Delap. So yeah, okay, you haven't picked it apart. I'm sure those in the comments will, because and the reason I wanted to do this as well is because it really does piss me off how people lose their knickers over England squads. I see,
It's mad.
it really does my head in.
I the way I think the way things have landed with injuries, availability, and stuff. This squad, especially, I've not put any thought into it this week. The way you've just presented it, like I couldn't really pick anything apart there, to be honest. I think this may be the first squad where, because of different circumstances, it's almost like a universally agreed one, give or take one or two players.
I'll throw one more name out there for you, Marcus Rashford.
Not yet, not done enough at Villa yet.
Yeah,
But
I'm
is
in
that
agreement.
one where Tuchel looks at it and thinks, okay, I know your kind of historical connection with this squad and country, give it a go. But yeah,
Jacob Ramsey.
that's a good shout. He skipped my mind. I mean, who instead of is
Yeah,
the
that's it.
immediate?
I'm looking at the attacking mids. I mean, he's stacked. Like,
Yeah, that's a really good shout, but not quite yet.
yeah, in agreement. Okay, cool. Right, let's talk to me about Alphabet FC, or was something was once called KFC apparently. So I found out.
I didn't find out they were called KFC at one point, so you'll have to tell me that. But
It's
yeah,
your bag, mate. It's Euro focus. We're talking about AZ Alkmaar, who one
we
West
are
Ham fan very famously said, "We can't be losing to Alphabet FC." And sure enough, here I am 6 days later, really fretting about it.
indeed. I'm intrigued to hear about your experience of the stadium and stuff. But in terms of them, historically, they're one of the oldest clubs in Dutch football. So they, like many clubs, were formed as part of a merger between two clubs, and the two clubs were Alkmaar 54 and FC Zaanstreek. And Alkmaar 54 were actually one of the oldest clubs in Dutch football. And a lot of people say they are the oldest club in Dutch football because, according to records, the first ever professional match in Dutch football was competed in by Alkmaar 54 in the year 1954. The two clubs, those two that I mentioned, actually formed the merger in 1967. So that's where AZ Alkmaar kind of registers its roots in 1967. And that was under the backing of two businessmen. They were called Cees and Klaas Molenaar. And AZ Alkmaar had a bit of an indifferent period initially, but then towards the late 70s and the early 80s, that's really where, especially under the financial backing of the two brothers, they started to actually come into their own within the Dutch football pyramid and did well in Europe as well. In the 80-81 season, they won their first title, the Eredivisie. They only lost one game that season, and they scored 101 goals in that season. In the same season, they were, I'm sure you'll know this, they reached the UEFA Cup final. Do you know who they lost to?
That's the Ipswich Town.
On aggregate, I was confused by.
Yeah, UEFA Cup final used to be home and away until oh crap, about 97. So for
Yeah,
a
I
long
didn't know
time it
that.
was two legs. Yeah,
Yeah, because I saw 5-4 and I was like, oh, that's a big game. And then I saw aggregate. I was like, what? So, big season in 80-81, winning the league title, but unfortunately losing the UEFA Cup final, but pretty good to get there. And yeah, I think the period after that was where it's a bit harsh to say the wheels started to fall off because of the size and stature of the club, but one of the Molinar brothers actually unfortunately died. And the club struggled a bit financially after that. And then in 1988, they were actually relegated and they stayed in that division for a few years. And it was only 97-98 when they actually won promotion back to the Eredivisie. So they're in the second, well, yeah, would have been the second division for quite a few years. And then it was under the ownership of a different businessman called Dirk Scheringa, who came in where AZ Alkmaar returned back to the top division. And they finished third in the Eredivisie in the 2004-05 season. They then won their first title in the 2008-09 season, and I'm sure you'll know the answer to this one. Do you know the manager
Which
who
year was
took them to
this?
that title?
Which time?
2008.
Louis van Gaal, wasn't it?
It was Louis van Gaal, indeed. So yeah, won the title. Obviously, as a result, secured a Champions League spot. And pretty much since then, they've been competitive in Eredivisie without obviously going on and winning it again. But they regularly qualify for different European competitions. They've been in the Champions League. They've been in the Europa League. They had a very strong Europa Conference League campaign where they reached the semi-finals in 22-23 before losing to the team who produced the fan that called them
I love
Alphabet
West
FC.
Ham, right? They're brilliant. What a football club. They're all fucking at me last week. Winning in Alkmaar's not for everyone. Could you be any more Tim Pot? I swear to God.
I mean, they're not wrong.
No, they're
They beat
right.
them.
Yeah.
You didn't.
I think there's a few other examples that we could give back, but
Very true.
I was thinking if we did get through, and then obviously we probably would play Frankfurt in the next round, and Frankfurt knocked West Ham out, and I was thinking it's just that would you do it back to them? And I was like, no, I just wouldn't bother my time on West Ham. Sorry, guys, sorry.
I can't wait for Tottenham. But yeah, like I said, they've been, especially since 2009, just regularly competitive in the Eredivisie, never really looking like they're going to go on and win the league. But I don't think that's their expectation. Obviously, you've got Ajax in there, you've got Feyenoord, you've got PSV. I think they're a club that kind of knows their place, but they regularly compete in the different European competitions. They've produced a mix of pretty decent Dutch international players as well. And Troy Parrott was a player who obviously was at Tottenham, who went there for a period as well. Vincent
Actually,
Janssen.
bumped into in Alkmaar last Thursday his former coach.
Oh, did
And
you?
had a
How did that
conversation
come
with
up in
him. Yeah.
conversation?
Well, to be honest, we left the hotel and we was walking into the city, and I was like, "Who's this Irish guy?" Just come over and started talking to us. I was like, "It's a bit weird." Like, okay, where's my wallet? That kind of fucking gig. It's nothing against Irish people, by the way. I'm just like, who's this random who comes over and starts talking to us? When you're in a foreign country, you are on your toes. I don't know who this person is who comes and speaks to us. Anyways, chatting to us seems like a nice bloke, and then after about 2 minutes, walking towards the city. And he just drops me. He's, oh yeah, I used to coach Troy Parrott when he was a kid and stuff. So yeah, as you were,
Fair
and
play.
that's why he was over. Troy Parrott had got him tickets. He regularly went over to see Troy and that.
Oh, that's a nice touch.
Wish he played up front for us last week. Jesus Christ!
Who did play up front? Oh, Tell was it?
And yeah, that's talking tactics tomorrow.
Yeah. In terms of the stadium, yeah, I want to hear your experience of it because they play at the AFES Stadion, which opened in 2006, but it did have to close in 2019 for a little bit because they had to do some reconstruction because the stadium roof collapsed.
Correct.
And
Yeah.
then, yeah, so I mean, what was it like being in there? What was the atmosphere like? Did you know anything about the stadium reconstruction or anything?
Yeah, so there's one side which was where the camera is. They've obviously built up a bit more of executive and they've put this kind of girder over the top that supports it much better as it stands out. They did have plans originally to do the other three sides to take the capacity up to 30,000, but that's kind of been on hold mainly for financial reasons. And also, to be honest with you, having been there last week, I don't think they need to because it wasn't full.
Oh, really?
Not on that
Oh, okay.
premium side. I don't know if the tickets were a lot more expensive there. The rest of the ground
That's
was. But yeah, I wouldn't have said it was 100% capacity. I'd have said it was like 95% capacity.
I'm surprised by that. But then on one hand, I am thinking if you've got clubs the size of PSV, Feyenoord, Ajax in the Netherlands, like what is the split like in terms of support?
Well, I
What
think
was the
the
go on.
population of Alkmaar, I think, is a little over 100,000. So
Okay,
when you put
quite
that in
small then, yeah.
context, what are you expecting? You expecting a 50,000 and after people there go? Well, no. I'll tell you what, there are a lot of in Alkmaar, but it's just I think it's a Netherlands thing. Bikes. Fucking hell, mate. Oh my god. I saw a poor lady get run over actually. Well, actually, that's a lie. Well, no, it's not a lie. It's the truth. I saw her get run over by the coach or bus that I was on that was ferrying us to the football stadium. It was one of
Was
them
she all
bent.
right?
It was one. Well, yeah. Fortunately, she fell outwards rather than inwards. Otherwise, it would have been game over, mate. I'm sitting on the edge and I'm looking backwards on it, and it's one of them bendy buses. You know, when it takes the
Oh
corner and all
dear.
that, and
Yeah, yeah.
she's got caught, mate. Yeah.
Oof.
But the thing
Yeah,
weren't
the Dutch
stopping.
and the
Anyway,
bicycles.
I mean, it didn't help. Obviously, he was driving on the wrong side of the road, wasn't he? As far as I could tell. Or maybe it's just us. Yeah, nice stadium. When you're outside, it looks bigger than what it is. You could easily be, although the facade and the outside looks different, you could easily be in terms of size outside St Mary's or King Power, something like that. 20,000. This kind of looks as big, and there's a very real reason why that is. Verticality, mate. Oh my God, this thing is steep. So, challenge to anyone who ever goes to Tottenham and is in the home area, go down to the front behind the goal and walk to the top. It is 82 rows, and good luck for how your legs are once you get to the top. Well, this at Alkmaar was not even half. And I can tell you that my legs were jelly when I got to the top of this because of how steep it was. Every step felt like climbing a little mini mountain, mate. It's
Oh
so
wow.
vertical. Brilliant.
How did it compare to the walk up to the away end in St James's Park? Because that takes something out of me
Can
when
I
I
be
do
honest
that
with
climb.
you? Easier.
Really?
Easy. St James is easier, yeah, because it's just little steps, just lots of them. You're like, is this ever going to end? It's in your head. Is this ever going to end? But this with Alkmaar, every one of them steps felt like you needed to pull on something to take you up the next step, mate. But it's
Oh
so
dear.
steep, and it was the same in the Johan Cruyff Arena as well. It was so steep. Those are the worst stairs I've ever climbed in a football stadium. Was at Ajax. The steps were huge to
I've
take
been to
you
that
up like a
stadium, but I
next
can't remember it.
level. So that you went up, you know what most courses are. You go round and round and round and round. So Amsterdam's a bit like that. But to get to the next level, it was only about like 12 steps, mate. Like looking up at the thing going, it's miles. It's only 12 steps. The steps were so huge. I don't know what it is. Anyway, nice toilets.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You mentioned something about. Is that a Tottenham story
So
or is
we
that
got
one
the
for now?
first. We had to collect. I'll talk about this more on Patreon today. We had to collect our tickets in Alkmaar, and you get ferried on these shuttle buses. Poor lady gets run over on the way to the ground. You get dropped straight in your way, and you can't do nothing else. Right? You literally you're locked in. Fine, go in the ground. They're doing beer in the ground, and that's fine. And gets in there. As I look round, so I've been in the ground about 20 minutes because we're really only the first bus that's been in. There's not many in the ground. I'll go to the toilet, walk in there, and I honestly I had to double check on myself that I hadn't walked into the wrong room because it looked like I'd walked into like changing room showers or something.
Oh yeah, I do remember you saying that.
There was no urinal. It was like an open plan shower with water shooting out the walls to clean it, and I used that in the loosest fucking term, and you just pissed up against the wall.
Sounds very cleanliness, very hygienic.
Not the worst toilets I've seen on a European tour, admittedly, but yeah,
Did
one of the
you
best.
any scran in the ground? I like hearing about footy scran across the continent.
No, no, you wouldn't have. Comes right
No.
next to them toilets. Fuck that,
Oh yeah.
mate.
What was the atmosphere like? Because obviously, what do you say? It's like 20,000 in there.
Yeah,
What? So
not
your away
hostile.
end would have been about a
You know what it
thousand.
is, particularly in the Netherlands. I think they really go to enjoy themselves. Primarily, the majority of people. We know they've got some firms out there who don't want to look after themselves and stuff like that, and keep their reputation. Um, but it's like it's a horrible place to lose because you feel like you're in a proper like Euro trance club. So every boom, 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 boom. It's like that. Yeah. It's like you're in someone's club. It's someone's uninvited party, and they're just bouncing around you. It's fun,
You
as
compare that
usual.
to
In
the
the Netherlands,
PSG
can
culture.
can smell the thing that my dad likes to call marijuana.
The
Lots of that.
Mary
It's the
Jane.
first
Yeah.
away end I've been in, I think, since Ajax, where I could smell it. I unfortunately found out that Alkmaar does have a red light district, having already been there. Too late.
You say
Um,
unfortunately.
yes, obviously, I'm just saying I didn't know. It does feel like a bit of a mini dam. You've got like the canal through the city and stuff. It's quite a famous place for its cheese making. It's got like a kind of big shopping area, but it's also got these kind of tight alleyways, which is really cute. Local businesses and restaurants and stuff. Yeah, nice little place. Nice
Nice.
place. I like the Netherlands.
Fair play.
Sort of windmills on the way up on the train. Easy enough to do. If you ever want to go to Alkmaar, people want to, oh, I want to go to a game this weekend in Europe, you can get a ticket. It's easy done. Honestly, about half hour in a cab from Schiphol. Yeah, Schiphol. Yes, that's the name of the airport in Amsterdam. That'll cost you. So we was going to get a cab back until Uber decided to quote me €100 for the cab back to the airport, and I was like, I don't think so because the train won't be that much longer, and it's only about 15 quid. So you can get a train from Alkmaar to Amsterdam Sloterdijk. Yes, I said that correctly. Might be Sloterdijk 'cause it's spelled like Van Dyke. That'll take you half hour, and then you can get the Sprinter train. There's only another 10 minutes to back to the airport.
Fair
Doddle.
play.
Doddle. Flight from London City Airport to Amsterdam is 40 minutes. The whole fucking gig is easier than going up northwest, mate. Honestly,
Oh,
I've
easy.
harder work getting to like Liverpool or something, mate.
Yeah, and the cost as well. The reason we're covering them is obviously,
No, no, they see me coming. It weren't cheap, mate.
oh yeah, because all of these, to be fair, when they see the draws, they put the prices up, don't they?
Yeah,
But yeah,
unfortunately.
reason we covered them, obviously, like you said, you went there last week. The tie is 1-0. How are you feeling going into the second leg tomorrow?
Bit better knowing that Dom's available, just because it just gives us a focal point. It's probably 50-50 whether we do it or not. If we play like we did in the first leg, we won't. But I think the crowd will be up for it. It'll get behind the team. It's definitely doable, right? And frankly, if we don't do it, we don't deserve nothing anyway. So yeah,
Yeah.
we'll probably get it. We'll probably get it done. But I'll add the caveat: we won't beat Frankfurt in the quarterfinals.
Yeah, fair play. I think cup competitions, you never know. As long
And
as
by
you're
the
in it,
way,
you never know.
if we don't win on Thursday, those game week 36 double projections will change.
Okay.
They will go back into
Chip,
37.
is there going to be a fourth trip man pod?
Yeah, after the FA Cup quarterfinals, of course. Let's finish
Nice.
with Euro Focus
You mean on this day?
on this day. Can you tell I've been that's deluded
He's been
on
on the
this?
wacky backy.
To be honest, that was not what I needed out there last week. Feeling like shit, and I can smell that. Some people might like that. My brain fog did not need that around me last week. Anyway, yes, on this day, doesn't even involve an English team, Clates. It's a Champions League last 16 second leg match from on this day in 2019 between
Okay.
Juventus and Atletico Madrid. Any memories?
People aren't going to be shocked that I'm going to say no, but I'm sure as you talk through it, it will come back. What am I confusing Juventus Atletico Madrid with a Champions League final? Was this a Ronaldo jobby 2019?
It's a Ronaldo job, eh?
Was it the bicycle one?
No, you're
Uh,
thinking that was the goal he scored for Real Madrid in Turin.
okay.
Where I think by which point Juventus was so sick of him because he'd obviously done the business, I think, in the year before in the final in Cardiff. And we're like, yeah, we should probably go and buy this guy. He's going to kind of finish the job for us here. So Juventus against Atletico Madrid, second leg of the last 16. Atletico taken a 2-0 lead to Turin. And of course, you have to remember away goals counted. So a 2-0 home leg, first leg victory was good. You didn't overturn them mostly. You know where this is going. And there was some controversy after the first leg, after Diego Simeone did the kind of Emi Martinez frosting action without the glove, without the golden glove, claiming that he'd shown real balls by picking Koke and Diego Costa because they hadn't played for a month because they'd been injured. And Ronaldo was getting hounded coming back through the press media area after the game because obviously it was his first return with Juventus. He'd obviously buried Atletico several times over with Real Madrid. Hostilities, obviously. Ronaldo stops as he's walking out the stadium in the media and he's like, yeah, I've won 5 Champions Leagues. These have won none. It's a bit like the whole, Mourinho.
Jose
Respect,
Mourinho.
respect.
Yeah.
So he's back up going into the second leg, and he's not the sort of bloke you needed to piss off. But that Atletico team, it's the same now under Simeone. I think even without the away goals, if Atletico would win the first leg 2-0, you would fancy them to go through against anybody, I think. And they had a good side, Atletico, right? Jan Oblak, who's in goal now. Godin and Jimenez at centre back. Salniguez and Rodri. Yes, Rodri. In midfield, Koke, Thomas Lemar, Arias and Wanfran were the fullbacks. Morata, who's played for everybody, and Antoine Griezmann, who's still there up front. Where's Morata now? He's at Milan at the moment, isn't he?
He's at AC, I think.
Thanks
Yeah.
very much. Juventus lineup for the record wasn't bad either. Chainsmoker, Volchek, Szczesny, he of now Barcelona, having come out of retirement, was in goal. Back three of Emery Chan, obviously formerly of Liverpool, Dortmund. Bonucci and Chiellini, yeah, not bad. In midfield, Pjanic and Matuidi, Bernardeschi in front of that. Fullbacks, this sounds like a Euro 2020 best 11. Spinazzola at left wing back, Cancelo at right wing back. And up front with GOAT Ronaldo, Mandzukic, who was a forward who very much knew where the goal was, part of the very good Croatian teams that we've seen, and scored a fantastic goal against Real Madrid in the Champions League final in Cardiff. So Juventus have an early goal disallowed, which Chiellini scored, I think, but Ronaldo was penalised for kicking the ball out of Oblak's hands.
Did he?
Questionable.
Okay.
It's one of them. It's like if the goalkeeper's got two hands on it, he's in control of it. I'm not sure. VAR in play here though, so VAR rules out the goal. Ronaldo would give Juventus the lead on the night with a very typical back post header. It comes from the left, kind of similar across to Miller's Kirkes against Tottenham. Not quite as good as that, but kind of a little bit further forward from the angle towards the back post. And Ronaldo's pulling onto the back post, and how many times have you seen it? You think he's going to do it?
Yeah, he's just hanging in the air for a few seconds, isn't he?
You know what's phenomenal about him? When you think back, and he probably never had enough credit for this. How many wingers can you truly think that you've seen who became brilliant aerially? I can only think of two.
Who's the second?
I would say Gareth Bale as well.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's not many coming to mind, to be fair.
Don't, do they? This guy was considered like a show pony, trick merchant when he was very young at Manchester United. Became arguably the best header of a football ever.
Yeah.
One of the
His
best,
hang
right?
time was just always a joke. Yeah.
People reference the Sampdoria goal on the famous photo, don't they? Any case, he puts them in front, and it's all Juventus. It's all Juventus. Early in the second half, this time cross from the other side, Ronaldo leaps similar. He's pulled onto the back post, gets his blinding header in. This save from Oblak is out of this world. Proper stretch and claws it like on the line. Only one person in the ground thinks it's a goal. Ronaldo. And sure enough, it is. He's crossed the line. VARs give the goal. So Ronaldo has levelled it on the night. And they're obviously pushing for the winner. Atletico don't have a shot on target in the whole game. They're kind of backs to the wall now. 5 minutes from time, Bernardeschi gets fouled. It's debatable because he ultimately trips himself up. It was a little bit like the penalty Liverpool had at Bournemouth a couple of weeks ago, where you could say there was a bit of contact and it's not going to get overturned, right? But ultimately, I think it was Gakpo, and Gakpo got touched, didn't he? And he ended up tripping himself. Yeah. This was the same thing with Bernardeschi. Ronaldo rattles the penalty in. Bottom left-hand corner. Hat-trick on the night. I think it was like his fourth hat-trick against Atletico, something stupid or something. I mean, I saw a stat at the time that it was only 4 hat-tricks ever scored against Diego Simeone's Atletico, and Ronaldo had got like all of them. Like disgusting. Wow. Wheels away, celebrates. He's got a hat-trick. He's the man of the moment. Juventus win 3-2 on aggregate. Final whistle goes, and the ball's in the far corner, right by where the Atletico away fans are. And Ronaldo stands there right in front of him. What does he do? He gives it the Diego Simeone thrust, doesn't he? In the same way back at them, as if like, who's got the balls now, right? and he proper incites in front of them, mate. The camera doesn't show the Atletico fans, but I bet they're going absolutely nuts. And he gives it the big one, massive. It
Well,
was
and
the
as he
man for the big
should.
stage.
Yeah, I think especially like that, if you're gonna get stick, especially after the first leg, and you then need to back it up. He's the man to do it, right? So don't give it if you can't take it.
This is also a game that I remember very fondly for personal reasons.
Go
One of
on.
the things Ronaldo said afterwards, he said, and it was quite a bizarre comment. He said, and I paraphrase this is why I was brought to the club. It was to help Juventus achieve things they've never achieved before. Completely forgetting that they had won 2 Champions Leagues previously in their history, but whatever. Fine, Cristiano. But I guess he was seen as the centerpiece and the final bit that would take them over the line. Quarterfinal against Ajax. That should be easy enough, shouldn't it? But it wasn't. I'll leave the story there. That's all for Euro
Yes.
Focus this week.
Gracias. Very, very good. Yeah, that was a wrap of it all. What's on the schedule for the rest of the week?
Recommend yesterday's Clash of Correspondence, by the way, very much. Bournemouth versus Brentford, Neil Grover and Tom Med, if you've not had the chance to listen to that, which gave me enough time to think, oh my God, what are we doing tomorrow? Yeah, new concept, Chip Talk, me and Suj will be doing. We're going to be looking specifically at free hit for this weekend. We're also going to be looking at, I know there's a number of people on Wildcard at the moment, different avenues for Wildcard subject to certain strategies as well. And my good mate, the goat of YouTube, Andy Mears, has asked me to look at the worst case scenario for a game week 29 wildcard based on how shit might game week 33 look like if you're trying a bench boost in it. We'll have a look at that as well. Ask James on Friday as well. Thank you, Clayton.
Lovely stuff.
Cheers. As ever, everyone, smash a like, hit the sub. If you listen to an audio, 5-star review goes a really long way. Please be nice to each other. Cue music, please, man child.